Hey, hi everyone. Thank you for joining in. We'll start with our session very shortly. हम बहुत जल्द अपना सेशन शुरू करेंगे. हम बस कुछ मिनट और वेट करेंगे बाकी लोगों का भी ज्वाइन करने का एंड देन फिर हम आज का सेशन शुरू करेंगे.
हे दोस्तों, वेलकम टू अपना कम्युनिटी। ये वो जगह है जहां आप अपने असली पोटेंशियल को एक्सप्लोर कर सकते हैं। देखो, सबके पास स्किल्स होते हैं, पर क्या आपके अंदर वो स्पार्क है जो आपको कामयाबी की ऊंचाइयों तक ले जा सकता है? अगर आप सोच रहे हैं जॉब चेंज करने के लिए लेकिन रेज्यूमे सेलेक्ट नहीं हो रहा या फिर इंग्लिश में इंटरव्यू देना थोड़ा चैलेंजिंग लग रहा है, तो फिक्र मत कीजिए। यहां हम हैं आपके साथ, आपको सपोर्ट करने के लिए। अपना कम्युनिटी में आपको मिलेगी बेहतरीन कम्युनिटीज जहां आप अपने प्रोफेशनल स्किल्स को सुधार सकते हैं। चाहे आप एक्सेल, टैली, जीएसटी में माहिर बनना चाहें या फिर आप खुद एक ब्यूटिशियन या डिजाइनर हैं, तो यहां आप अपने काम को शोकेस करके दूसरों को टिप्स एंड ट्रिक्स देते हुए आगे बढ़ सकते हैं। अपना कम्युनिटी में आपको मिलेगा मेंटर्स का एक खजाना और बड़े इन्फ्लुएंसर्स का साथ जो आपको हर कदम पर 1-to-1 गाइड करेंगे। यहां आप ज्वाइन कर सकते हैं अपने फील्ड या इंडस्ट्री स्पेसिफिक ग्रुप्स, जहां आपको ऐसे कई लोग मिलेंगे जिनसे सीख के आप वो गलती ना करें जो वो कर चुके हैं। ऐसे लोगों की जिन्होंने स्टार्ट किया था एज एग्जीक्यूटिव्स एंड आर नाउ सक्सेसफुल मैनेजर्स इन देयर डोमेन्स, जो आपको आगे बढ़ाने में मदद करेगा। यहां आपको मिलेगा वो सही डायरेक्शन जो आपकी करियर को नेक्स्ट लेवल ले जाएगा। तो लेट्स अनलॉक योर पोटेंशियल टुगेदर। अपना कम्युनिटी में ज्वाइन करें और अपने सपनों की ऊंचाइयों तक पहुंचने का सफर शुरू करें।
Hey, hi everyone. Good evening and warm welcome to everyone present here for today's session. It's a huge occasion today, and I'm glad to introduce you all for today's session. आज के सेशन ज्वाइन करने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. हम आज का सेशन जल्दी शुरू करेंगे. हम बस वेट कर रहे हैं 1 मिनट ताकि बाकी लोग भी और जुड़ जाए हमारे साथ. While we wait, I'll quickly introduce this session and let people know why we are doing this. If people have come for previous sessions, they might know, but if this is your first session, so we do these sessions every day from 7 to 8 p.m. These are a part of Apna Community Exclusives. These are live webinars that we are conducting to help with your professional career growth, covering wide range of topics like interview prep, resume building, teaching you different technical skills, helping you with your spoken English. So we are doing these sessions every day to help our Apna users increase their chances of getting placed, getting a job. And today's session is specifically meant for on lines of creating a good resume and creating a good profile. If you're a data scientist, then this session is an absolute must for you. But even if you're not, even if you're attending this session just to understand how to get better at creating your own resume and profile, so you should definitely stick around. And I think this will be helpful for you. For that, we have Nishtha here with us. She's a data scientist at Deloitte and has been mentoring uh, a lot of people, a lot of youngsters and freshers and graduates to progress in their careers. So we have her with us, and we are very thankful, Nishta, for your time and for joining us on this session. Without any further delay, I'll ask you to quickly take over and give a little bit of introduction about yourself and the session as well.
Yes, sure. First of all, thanks, Dipanjan, for having me today, and I'm glad to taking up this session and have the session around resume building and basically upskilling and amping your profile. So I'll quickly share my screen and let me know if it's visible. Okay, so tell you a little bit about myself, right? Right. I am Nishta Gupta. I have a background in chemical engineering. So basically, I did my bachelor's as well as my master's in chemical engineering, and transitioned my career into the space of data science. And since then, I've been working with Deloitte. It's been almost 2.8 years for me as working as a data scientist with Deloitte, and now I have also been mentoring people with how can they build resumes, how can they upskill into the space of data science, and how can they transition into the space, right? But before starting the session, right, I would like to ask the audience that, uh, what what all background they are coming from, right? Are you guys, freshly graduates, or are you guys currently in college or having some sort of experience? If you can, quickly put it in the chat box. It would be really helpful.
Please let us know in the chat if you are an experienced candidate, if you are a college student, if you're a fresher, please let us know so that we can also understand and structure our session accordingly. If you have any questions, any doubts, please feel free to use the chat. You can ask your questions there. You can also ask your questions in the Q&A section. And we will also take pauses in between the session every now and then to give you an opportunity to interact and ask questions. So please feel free to use the chat in the meantime.
Just 30 seconds more, I think, then we'll be discussing and moving forward with the session. But I can see that most of you are a fresher or in college. That's great. Okay, so I think this session will be very, very useful for you because we'll be discussing how you can build perfect ATS compliant resumes, right? It's not just applicable in the field of data science, it's applicable like in most of the fields, right? Okay, I am guessing that most of you are fresher, and let's take a session in that respect, right? So what we'll be covering in this session is how you can build an ATS compliant resume, right, targeted to data science, as well as we can discuss the how can you build the ATS compliant resume in general as well, right? And then we can like quickly discuss on how you can build your LinkedIn profile as well. So yeah. So let's start with understanding that, what are the responsibilities of our data scientist, right? Because in order to build a proper ATS compliant resume, it's very important that you understand what roles and responsibilities you will be doing it as a data scientist, right? So that you can incorporate those in your resume. So first is that, you need to understand the business problem. So if I'm talking about you have to understand the business problem, that means that in some way you can showcase your this thing, right, in the resume. Then we have data gathering and assessment, right, followed by we have data cleaning, where we are like we because we have like numerous of data, right? We have millions of data which we have to clean. So that is one of the tasks or the role which we have to perform, where we have to clean the data, right? Then we have exploratory data analysis, where we basically try to do some visualizations in order to understand how our data is looking. So what you can do is probably include that you have done univariate or bivariate analysis in your resume, right? So that shows your data analysis skills, right? Then we have model building and deployment, where it's a stage where we usually build model, right? This is particularly important for the people who are preparing or are applying for the data scientist roles, because this is something which you have to showcase in your resume, that you have worked on model development. And if you have worked on a deployment, it will be like a cherry on the top, right? Then finally you need to present the results to the stakeholders. For example, if you're working in a product, if you're working for a product based company, right, where you have to present your results to the product managers, right? So basically in your resume you can showcase that you can communicate well, right? So before building the resume, you need to understand how or what are the responsibilities of a data scientist, so that you can properly incorporate those in your resumes, right? Then this slide is specifically for the data scientist, right? Where we are trying to understand what are the data science skills you can showcase in your resume, right? So to start with the technical skills, right? You can showcase that Python or PySpark, or you have done projects in this particular languages, right? Python, R, or PySpark. Then comes SQL, structured query language. This is again one of the skill set which is required for to become a data analyst or to become a data scientist, right? So incorporating this as a technical skill or, showcasing some projects around it will be good or beneficial, right? Then we have to include some visualization tools, right? For example, Power BI and Tableau. So uh, so that you can, try to incorporate this in terms of that, you have also worked on this visualization skill set, right? And then of course Microsoft Excel, right? So all of this you can include under your technical skill sections, but we'll get there like when we will discuss that, what all other sections you have to incorporate in your resumes, right? Then comes machine, like if you're typically applying for a data scientist role, then you have to include some machine learning algorithms as well. This you cannot this is something which you cannot really incorporate in terms of a technical skill set, but you have to include this while you are writing your projects in the resume, right? So we have a section in our resume where we have to showcase what kind of projects we have worked upon in the past, and in that section itself you need to include different machine learning algorithms. So we have regression, right? So we have classification, then we have uh, like then we have other algorithms, for example, NLP, computer vision, feature engineering, like who are like these is for the people who are working like who already have some advanced machine learning skill set, right? Then another thing is that you have to showcase some of your mathematical and statistical skill set, and of course the last one is the data analysis. So before going further and discussing that, what all sections to include in your resume, is there any doubt or, do you have any questions to ask? Okay.
अगर किसी को कुछ भी सवाल पूछना हो तो आप अनम्यूट करके पूछ सकते हैं। आप चैट का भी इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं, बट अगर इफ एनीवन हैज एनी क्वेश्चन सो फार, प्लीज फील फ्री टू यूज द चैट और अनम्यूट योरसेल्फ। Anyone wants to ask anything? Any questions so far?
Is there anything to ask? I mean, skill set में कुछ पूछना हो या फिर जो डेटा साइंटिस्ट का रोल्स एंड रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज बताया है उस पे कुछ पूछना हो।
Good evening, madam. Myself, well, Santosh Reddy.
Yeah, hi.
Madam, I have completed my bachelor degree BCom Tourism and Travel Management in Bangalore. Because I wanted to go for my IT field, you can give any suggestion?
तो आपके पास कोई भी टेक्निकल स्किल सेट का एक्सपीरियंस है या बैकग्राउंड है?
Madam, yeah, I did. I did it. Now I am doing job as medical representative in medical rep in
तो आप
incineration.
क्या स्किल सेट यूज कर रहे हैं अभी?
Madam, can you speak me in English? I don't
Yeah,
know.
sure. What kind of skill set you are using currently?
Madam, I am doing like medical representative, madam.
That is your job, right? I mean, I'm asking if you have ever worked on any of the skill set which is mentioned on the screen.
No,
Excel,
madam, I did not.
right? So if you want to, I mean, it's like what I would suggest is you can start upskilling yourself in Microsoft Excel, right? Because most of the jobs can be done through Microsoft Excel, right? Like if you don't want to go into this data science, right? Even if you want to go to some other IT field, right? You can start with Microsoft Excel and then probably understand where your interest lies.
Okay, madam.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you, madam.
thank you. Is there any other question?
I think we have one question on chat. As a fresher to become a data analyst or data science, knowledge of MS Excel, Python, and SQL is enough. Is the question? Is it enough, or is there anything else that?
So for data analyst, right, if you're working, so there are two questions here, right? Somebody like you are asking about the data analyst as well as data scientist, right? To become a data analyst, Python, SQL, and Excel is sufficient, but it's also good to have some visualization skill set as well, which I mentioned here as Power BI or Tableau. Any one of them would be doable, right? But to actually get into the data science, you need to have some knowledge around machine learning projects as well, like machine learning algorithms, and do some sort of at least 2 to 3 machine learning projects as well. I hope I answered your question. I think it was to help.
Yeah. I think this is a follow-up question. Does data scientists need to know machine learning, or is it all about maths and statistics?
Of course, they need to know about machine learning. It's very, very crucial, right? I mean, because after you are done with exploratory data analysis, right, mathematics and statistics is just one part of it, right? You need to understand different machine learning algorithms which we have, right? So some of them I have mentioned here in the screen as well, right? So if we talk about the supervised learning algorithms, right, we have something called linear regression. We have some classification algorithms such as random forest decision tree. Then we have unsupervised machine learning, for example, KNN, right, clustering. Or you can try to understand and learn NLP, computer vision. That's an altogether a different kind of algorithms which we have. So mathematics and statistics is just one part, right? And but you need to have machine learning knowledge as well. I hope I answered your question, Jordan. If you have any further question over it.
There's one more question. Like, is there a job for freshers in data science?
So you can start with data analyst, right? And then progressively learn, like, because the skill set which we require for the data scientist, like basically kind of intersect with what we have in data analyst. So as I mentioned, right, Python, SQL, Power BI, Excel is kind of the skill set which a data scientist also uses, right? So if you're becoming a data analyst first and then progressively learning about the machine learning algorithms as well, that is the way. So yeah, you can start with data analyst.
I think there's one more question.
Yeah.
From Jolan. He says, can we start with a particular algorithm and get more knowledge about that and move forward with other algorithms?
Yes, absolutely. So what you can do is you can start with the supervised machine learning algorithms first, right? So we have around 5 to 6 basic algorithms in supervised machine learning. So you can start with those 4 to 5 algorithms and then progressively, kind of understand where our interest lies and, step by step learn the other algorithms as well. But just learning these algorithms is not sufficient to get a job, right? You need to do some good 2 to 3 projects which you can include in your resume, right? Because nowadays what happens, right? You have to make your resume ATS compliant, and because now thousands of application gets into the portal, right? So it's the ATS only which filters out your resume and ranks your resume. So it's very important to uh, like include the skill set and include the appropriate keywords in your resume. Hence, it's very important that you include your projects as well. Okay, so another question on top of it I'm seeing is that what is your opinion on learning from courses about this or doing projects instead? I didn't get your question, Jolan. I mean, because one thing is to learn these algorithms, right? And that you can do either through some YouTube videos, either through some courses which you have, right? And other thing is that even if you have, even if you are doing some coursework, right? Let's say we have Udemy, we have Coursera, right? Even if you are doing even if you're learning the algorithms from there, you need to do the projects. That projects is like mandate.
Yeah. Okay. I think we can proceed. If there's any more questions, please use the chat. We'll again take another break in between to answer these questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's start with understanding what are the. I think my screen got start. Just a minute. Yeah. Let's start with understanding that what are the key sections which you can include in your resume. It is something which is not just for data science, right? It can be applicable to all the fields where you are currently working, or where you will be working. So this is something which is applicable for all the people in this call, right? So we'll have to start with name plus designation, and that comes before the header, right? So if you are making a resume in a Word document, we have something called header, we have something called footer, right? So above the header, it comes your name as well as designation. If you are a working professional already, right, you can write the designation you are currently working at, right? But in the designation, we majorly put for which you are applying for a job. So, for example, I'm applying for a data analyst role, right? I'll put Nishtha Gupta, and then below that, I'll put data analyst, right? I'll show you. We'll have some examples in the coming slides. I can show you later, but that's how you put, right? So in the designation, you usually put the designation for which you are applying the role, like for which you are applying, right? Next is your contact information. So you should always include your genuine, contact details. So here you have to put your contact number, which is your phone number. Then you have to also include location, right? Now in the location, you should not always put the location or the complete address of your hometown or something like that, right? You should always put the location where you would like to get a job. So for example, I want to get a job in Gurgaon, right? Even though I'm not living in Gurgaon, that is not my hometown, right? So I will put Gurgaon as a location. So for example, if you want a job in Bangalore, put Bangalore as your location. Okay, so why I'm saying this is because even if you're applying through different job search platforms, or you're applying through Naukri.com, or you are, or you're just applying through the company's websites, right? So how they filter is that, they sometimes filter your resume by the job location as well, right? For where that role has been opened. That is the reason you need to put the location where you are applying or where you want to get the job, right? Next is your email ID, right? Always put your genuine email ID and then your LinkedIn profile link, right? Next is your profile summary. Profile summary is kind of an important where you need to just write your profile summary in less than 75 words, where it should just include your skill, like what kind of skills you have and what you can bring to the table, right? So it should just include that. It should not be the it should not include like too many words. It should just have it should just be of less than 75 words, right? Now now here this comes into picture, right? Experience, right? If you are a working professional, what kind of experience you hold, right? So all of those experiences you have to write here. And if you're not a working professional and you are a college graduate, or you're currently working in, or you're currently studying, right? You can just put your education. But for the working professional, you should write both your experience as well as your education, right? Uh, I hope I'm clear until now. If there is any doubt, you can ping on the chat, right? We can pick it up from there.
Yeah, hello ma'am.
Yeah,
Am I audible?
yeah, you are.
Okay. So actually, recently I've completed my data science course.
Okay.
I'm getting some problem regarding the resume building or LinkedIn profile optimization. You just mentioned about the key section to include in your resume. But
Yeah, that
what
is
is,
what we are. Yeah.
yeah, please let me complete. In the profile summary, what should be the exact, not exact, but what should be the ideal summary that that kind of fresher put it over there? Can you please help me in this?
Yeah. So can we take it after I'm done with all the key sections? Can we take that question up after that? Is it
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. 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 So, yeah, after we are done with experience, right? Then we have to include the projects, right? I mean, what you can do, but like whatever, like let's say if you are currently aiming for a data scientist role or a data analyst role, you can write all the projects you have done, right? And you can also write the project which you have done during your job, right? So and always remember to not put each and every project in this particular section. Just include 3 to 4 good projects on which you have worked on and which you think that it will be really good for your profile, right? After you're done with projects, then you need to include your technical skills. The technical skills, which let's say I mentioned here, right, where you are actually writing the exact technical tech stack where you have, which on which you have worked upon, right? So Here you can write your technical skills. Now comes the education. This is for like this education section will come for the people who are currently working, right? Because if you're someone who is currently studying or is a recent graduate or a fresher, can include education just after your profile summary. But this section is for the people who are currently working, right, or who has some experience. After your education, then you need to write your certifications, right? Now let's say if you have done a course from Udemy, or if you have done a course from Coursera, right? Or if you are somebody who is Microsoft certified in Azure, right? Then you can write those certifications here, right? After that, you need to write your achievements. I mean, this achievement section is not really compulsory. This is something this is something which you can include. Let's say if you were a gold medalist of your batch, right? Let's say, or you have won some award, or if you have won some like a recognition award or a recognition from your previous company or your current company, like that, right? So those kind of achievements you can write here, right? Then you need to include your position of responsibility. This position of responsibility will include any volunteership work you have done in the past, right? If it's some NGO, or where you have been held at a position and you have like kind of was responsible for 10 to 20 people, right? Probably you were leading the team or something like that, right? So achievements and position of responsibility is not really compulsory, but if you have something to include in it, it's good to have, right? Then we have languages known. Include this section only if you know a foreign language, right? Because let's say if you know French or if you know German or something like that, right? Include the section if you know any foreign language. So yeah, this is these are the key sections to include in your resume. Okay, now I think we can just cover one more slide and then we can take up all the questions, because it's just, on the similar lines of what we have just discussed. So now we know that, what all are the key sections which you can include in your resume. Now we need to understand that, what all are the common mistakes which people usually do in their resume, and, which makes their resume unprofessional and not ATS compliant. And these are some of the mistakes which you should avoid, right? So one of the mistakes is the spelling and the grammatical errors, which like usually people do and literally kind of avoid that. They don't skim through their resume and see if they have any spelling mistakes or the grammatical mistakes. They have to rectify those, right? There should not be any spellings and grammatical errors. Then there is no need to include your personal interest or your hobbies, right? You don't really need that. And then your full address. So we mentioned here, right, your location. Here you just have to put Delhi, Gurgaon, Bangalore, Hyderabad, etc. Right? You don't really have to put your complete address. I've seen people putting their complete address, right? It's not at all required. Then choosing a wrong file name. So you should always name your resume. Like you should always, first of all, keep your resume in a PDF format and should only name it as, let's say, your name underscore resume, right? It should not be like resume 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? It should not be like that, or some unprofessional name. No, it's not required, right? It will not look good. So choose a good file name. So basically, a good file name would be your name underscore resume, right? Your personal details is not required. I've seen people including their parents' name, their full address, their mother's name, and all of that. That is, again, not required, right? Now elaborating the responsibilities or the experience section and not keeping them up to the point. So I've seen people, or what people usually do, the mistakes is that, let's say if they have worked in a company for 3 years, let's say, and in one project they have worked for 2 years, right? What they'll do, they will write each and every point or each and every task they had done during that course of the project, which is really not required. What you have to do is you just have to include your each experience or each project in 3 bullet points, which is that, what was the objective of the project, right? What is that which you had done to solve the problem, and how was the outcome looking, right? So in these 3 bullet points, you should just complete your responsibilities as well as your experience or your projects as well. You should not like literally elaborate each and every thing in that, because if you want to elaborate, you will get a chance during your interview, right, to elaborate each and everything. Again, unprofessional email ID or email address which you are mentioning in a resume here, all right? It should be a very professional email address. By what do I mean by professional is it can include some numbers and your name, for example. But I've seen people, or what people usually do the mistakes of that, they put their nicknames, or they put some random email address which doesn't look good on a resume, right? Which is not good. So this is something which you have to avoid. Now, not quantifying your resume. By quantification, what do I mean is that, you need to kind of quantify your resume. For example, let's say if you have worked in a team, right? And so just include that, collaborated with a team of 5 people, right? When you are quantifying your resume, it makes your resume even more credible that, you have worked, or, it shows that, you have the team work quality, or you can work in a team, right? So always try to quantify your resume. Next is not including action verbs in your resume. So always start your resume's bullet point, right? Always, let's say if you are including your experience, right? In start with an action verb. For example, collaborated, worked with, included, developed, right? So all of these are action verbs. So always start your bullet points with those action verbs. And what mistake you need to avoid is to not include those, right? So let's say I am just giving you an example of one of the resume, right? So this is the profile summary, right? So I think somebody was also asking, right, about the profile summary. So let's say even if you're fresher, you won't be having this thing, right? Data scientist with 2+ years of experience, right? You don't have that. But what you can do is you can simply write a fresher graduate having skill set this, and this, right? And proven leadership and management skills you can write, right? Let's say if you have like led a team in during your college days, or you have collaborated with some team or teamed up for some of your course project, right? So that's how you can start, like fresh graduate, and having this skill set, right? And then if you see here, right, in the experience section, we have majorly like just we have not really made it very elaborative. We have covered the 2 years of experience. If you see, we have just covered in 2 lines, right? Then if you see about the project, right, everything we have started with your action keywords, right? So involved, driving, developed, collaborated, developed, worked, right? So all of this is your action work. Then we have included the technical skill set, right? Where we have like included all the technical skills which I just showed you. This is the template for a data science. Then we have included the education, and then the certification which you have, and then the achievements if you have. So as I mentioned, achievement, position of responsibility, and your language is not really necessary, but if you have, it's good. Before going further, do you have any questions? We can take up some questions here.
Yeah, I think we have a few questions. Let me quickly go through chat. One is on how can we make the resume ATS friendly? I think this you'll cover, but yeah. So this
No,
is
that
one.
is what we have covered, right? So
Yeah.
wherever I've asked, like the key sections which you are going to include, right? And the mistakes which I have mentioned during the slides, if you're not making, right, you're including the action verbs, you're including the proper keywords which your job description is also having. For example, since I this was something for the data scientist. So the skill set which I mentioned initially was for the data scientist, but you can include the skill set which you are currently working in your current profession, right? So that's how you make your resume ATS compliant, including the action words, quantifying your resume, making your resume in that particular key section, like this in the order of those section which I have just mentioned, right?
Yeah. The other question was related to the format, but I think that's we've already covered in the session. Yeah. Uh, apart from this, अगर is there anyone else who wants to ask any question? अगर किसी को कुछ भी और सवाल पूछना है तो आप पूछ सकते हैं. अगर कुछ डाउट है अभी तक तो आप अनम्यूट करके पूछ सकते हैं. हाँ, विमल नाथ, yeah, please go ahead.
Hi.
Yeah.
Do we need to in Indian resume? Do we need to put our pick a passport size photo on it?
No, you don't have to put your photo in your resume. It's not
There's no
required.
need, right?
No, there is no need.
Okay, because there are a lot of suggestions from my friends who has been asking me, please keep a pic, but
No, that is not
yeah,
really required. If you are
is it,
actually including that now, your resume is not at all ATS compliant, because what happens is the ATS system which they have, right? They don't know how to read your photo. They only know how to read your text or the numbers, right? So you
okay,
just have to make your text out, the sections more clear, more visible, right? Rather than including your photos.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, hello, ma'am. I'm audible.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So you cleared me to regarding the profile summary as a fresher, how to put it over there. But as far as LinkedIn is concerned, when we put our LinkedIn profile link, recruiter also go to our profile link, LinkedIn profile link, and share over there our optimization. So how can we improve our LinkedIn profile? I mean LinkedIn optimization.
I'll
Any
just
way
discuss this after our Q&A. I'll just discuss. I have a whole slide prepared for it. I'll talk about that. What all are the sections which you need to include in your profile, right? Which should not be missed, right? So that we'll talk about in like few minutes.
Okay.
Is there any other question?
Yeah, I think there's one question from Saptarshi.
In the
They
chat?
have this person mentioned I have different experiences, not relevant experience, ex, but experiences that are there for longer periods. So shall I put that in my resume? So
Not
I think what the person is trying to say is that the experiences that they have might not be relevant to the job that they're applying. So should they still put those experiences in the resume?
You should put, right, because then how will you really showcase what you were doing in the last couple of years, right? So you have to put, but what you have to do is your resume should just be let's say 10% and 20% of that, and 80% should be the one should be for what you are actually applying for, right? So for example, if you're someone from, let's say for example, let's look at my example, right? If you are someone from a chemical engineering background, and if you have worked for a few years for a chemical engineering company, and then you want to switch to a data science, right? So my resume should just be 10% of what I had done during those years and 90% of what I'm actually applying for. So what I really have to do is I need to do some projects around the job which I'm applying for, right? So I should be including more of the projects for that, right? Rather than including more of the experience from the past. I hope I answered your question.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, I am having a different background, just like you. Electrical engineering, basically. I have an experience in maintenance profile. So I have done 5 projects as well. So how I will describe that? I mean the allocation of the percentage. Can you quantify it? 50% of project, or as you just mentioned. So the
So I mean,
experience.
for what role are you applying?
Yeah, I'm applying for data analytics.
Okay, so let's say you have applying, you have worked for 5 projects in the electrical engineering space, and now you're applying for a data analyst role, right?
No, ma'am. Actually, I did my project in data analytics itself. Okay. Actually, I have gone through an internship program from
Mhm.
there, and their
You
capstone.
don't have any experience in electrical engineering, right?
Yeah, I have more experience in electrical engineering of more than 7 years. So
Oh,
it's a
okay. Okay.
longer
So let's
time.
say if you have more than
Several
7.
companies are there. Several company names are there. Tenure is there. So timeline has to be mentioned. So
No. So what you have to do is you can include all of those experiences, right? Let's say if you have 5 different companies' experience, you can write down there, right? But what you really have to do is, let's say if I am, um, I'm writing here in experience, right? Because let's say here, we have worked here for just one company. We are just covering up it in 2 lines, right? What you can do is you can just cover everything in one line.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you
And
so
that
much.
also should not be like covering major part of your resume, right? What I'm trying to tell you is, probably you should not include, let's say all of your experiences. You can just include your recent experiences, 2, 3, या 5 years का. If you have 7 years experience, so starting के 2 सालों का आप, you can leave, right? And you can talk about it during your interview, that you have 7 years of experience already in electrical engineering, or you can talk about that in your profile summary.
Right. I can mention my designation and company name as well, and the tenure. What are these 3 points to be mentioned, right? For the previous.
Yeah, but it should not be included here, right? Because
Not
here it
included.
should just be your data analyst, because that's what the role you're applying for.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you.
Is there any other question?
Uh,
Uh,
Hello. Yeah. So I just learned how to put the contents of our in the resume, but we have to tailor our resume as per the job description. So
Yes.
how can we tailor our resume as per the job description? And secondly, how to calculate our the ATS score? I mean, there is any kind of website or something else?
Yeah, so what you can do is, to answer your first question, right? How can you tailor your job, like your resume with respect to the job description, right? What you can do is, uh, like, first of all, prepare your basic resume. Basic resume, I mean that, which you would like to give, right? Prepare one ATS compliant resume. Now,
Okay.
let's say if you're applying for a certain company, right? What you can do is try to check that, whatever skill set they have mentioned, do you at least have 30% of it? Okay. Let's say if they have included Python, SQL, machine learning, and let's say they have included NLP and LLM as well, for example, and if you only have Python, SQL, and machine learning, right, in
Okay.
your basic resume, and you don't have LLMs and NLP experience, right, or you don't have that skill set. So think about that, do you have that experience and you can mention it in your resume? Because, and if you don't have, that's okay, because you have already 30 to 40% of the skill set you already have in your resume, right? Why I'm asking you not to include everything which is there in the job description is because whatever is there on the resume, you should be 100% confident about it, right? If you are including NLP just because it's there in the job description, right, it is not doing any good to you, because then you will be asked in the interviews, right? Even though your resume is shortlisted, it will be asked in the interview, and then what will you say? Right? So always try to compare that, at least you should have 30% of the skill set. We are not asking you to include everything what is there in the job description.
Okay. Now I understand. Can you answer me your second question? That means how can I check the IPS score?
Yeah, so we have some websites, right? So one of the website is Resume Worded, right? You can go there and upload your resume and check your ATS score. It should be more than 75%.
Actually, ma'am, I went through that website. I tried to check my resume, and uh, and that website LinkedIn profile optimization score also uh, we can check over there.
Yeah.
But sometimes after that they used to put they used to ask about premium or pro something kind of. Or second thing I used to say that they do not even to they firstly they gave me some options like you can check मतलब 5 से 6 रेज्यूमे आप जो है सो चेक कर सकते हैं और उस 5 से 6 रेज्यूमे में भी जो है सो आपको सिर्फ मतलब वो 2 ही 3 पॉइंट ऊपर के बताते हैं जैसे हेडलाइन समरी और एक्सेट्रा तो डू नॉट go into the depth that what projects are you lacking or experience. So in that scenario, what should I do?
No, so they just start. So the thing is that
Hmm.
ATS like score will not tell you that, you have not included this project or you have not included that project, because that is
Hmm.
something which can happen only with respect to the job description which the company might be having, right? So when you are going to like to a website where just checking the ATS score, right? They will not really tell you that, this project is missing or you should have included this instead of this in your project, right? And what they do is they basically skim through your resume basis the action words or the quantification you have done, right? Or if you can use a better action word instead of the verb you have already put, right? So it will not give
Okay.
you that.
Okay, I understood, ma'am. Not just one resume word. I just go through the job scan platform. This is also one platform where we
Yeah.
can cover ATS score. But what I used to feel that वो जो ऑप्शंस देते हैं कि एक महीना में आप जो है सो 5 से 6 रिज्यूमे या ये कर सकते हो, उसमें भी हर एक ऑप्शन में वो बताते हैं कि आपने कुछ ही ऑप्शंस के लिए मुझे बताते हैं कि ये चीज सही है, और बाकी चीज जो है सो वो मतलब बोलते हैं कि आपको जो है सो ये प्रीमियम अपग्रेड करना पड़ेगा ये वाला था. So
See,
is
that
there
is the thing with most of the websites, right? They give you just few free trials, right? After that, they ask for the premium. So that will always be there.
no, in the free trial itself, they used to provide some limited score. I mean, not just limited score. तो वो कहते हैं कि आपका ये चीज सही है और बाकी वो चीज के लिए आपको अपग्रेड करना पड़ेगा. तो क्या मुझे अपग्रेडेशन लेना चाहिए या फिर कोई और एटीएस स्कोर कोई चेकर आप मुझे
See,
बता सकते हैं?
all of these ATS scorers, right? The websites, right? They will ask you for the premium after some trials, right? So, what you can check through them is that, how is your score looking, right? I mean, in terms of the basic thing at least, right? Because you cannot really, if you don't want to upgrade to the premium, at least you can be sure of about your basic ATS things, right? But if you can take up the premium, I would suggest you can take up the premium for just 1 month and not after that, because in 1 month you will be able to understand if you are having a good resume or not. And the final thing is when you finally apply to the other companies, right? How easy you are able to get the calls, right? That is where your final bit will be there, right? Otherwise, you need to understand if you have any things in your resume, right? But if you're following everything which we have mentioned in the slides, right? And if you are able to write your projects very clearly and very briefly, right? I am hoping that you should be able to get a good ATS score.
Yeah.
But you should
And
not take the premium. I don't think we should take it. You should take the premium up like for more than a month. It should be okay if you're taking a premium for a month and doing or catering to your mistakes in that way.
okay, I understand in that regard. But one more thing, ma'am. When we put our LinkedIn profile link on the resume itself, recruiter usually go through our LinkedIn profile and they used to check our LinkedIn optimization also. So in that case, when I used to check my LinkedIn optimization score at the resume border, it's just getting a 40-50% in that between. And is that itself when I'm looking at 40-50%, then how can I increase my chances to get a job when recruiter itself will
See,
take
don't
it?
seek for the LinkedIn optimization there, right? I'll tell you how can you do that, right? Just don't explicitly do that, because whatever resume you're applying and if you're able to fill up your LinkedIn profile with that with the details, because if your resume is ATS compliant, right, and if you're able to fill up the details from your resume to the profile of your LinkedIn, right, it should be optimized like on its own, right? You really don't have to put like too much efforts there. You just have to include the keywords. Keywords is the trick there. So for example, if you are somebody who is a Python developer, right, you need to at least have Python in your LinkedIn profile at least 7 to 8 times. How you can do it? Either you can write it in your header section, right, that you know Python. You can write that in your about section. You can write that if you are posting something on LinkedIn, you can write there, right? You can write it in your education, you can write it in your certifications, you can write it in your skill set. So there are too many things where you can write Python, and if you are writing Python, it will automatically be make your profile at the top, right? That is what I'm talking about. So
So
it's
you are
okay if
telling,
you're not getting a good score in that, because that generally doesn't make sense.
so you are telling that I have to fill all the sections that are supposed
Yes.
to be required.
Yes, so we'll talk about that in a bit, right? I
So,
think,
so being a fresher, how can I put over all the things? Just like for the experience section, I have completed my
it's okay if
completed.
you're not including experience section, right? Here, so that is what I'm telling you. Whatever you are putting up in your resume, you need to put everything in your LinkedIn profile. If you don't have any experience, put your education.
Okay.
Up,
Okay.
like put whatever is applicable to you, right? But at least tick off most of the sections from the profile.
Rohit, if you have any further questions, let's just hold them back for some time. We'll just quickly go through the remaining parts of the session, and then if there's time, we can maybe address more questions.
Yes.
Nisha, I think we should go ahead. We can take
Yes.
more questions later. आप chat पे questions डाल दीजिए Rohit, and you will take it up in some time.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, sure,
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
We have just one last slide, right, where
Yeah.
you guys wanted to understand how you can make your or optimize your LinkedIn profile, right? So this is your LinkedIn checklist, right? So these are all the sections you have to fill, right, in order to optimize your profiles. As I was answering to one of the questions of Rohit, right? If you want to make a like if you're a Python developer, let's say, you need to have Python in your profile at least 7 to 8 times. If I am a data scientist, I need to have at least 7 to 8 times all the skill set mentioned in my profile, right? How can I do that, right? But before that, let's start with how can you achieve each of these, right? So you should have a strong profile picture, right? By strong, I mean a proper clear headshot of your face, right? It's very important because I've seen people putting their full length picture, which is not really necessary, right? Then headline that show the value you provide. So here you can put Python, right? Here I can like what value I can provide. I have Python as a good skill set with me, right? I can like help you with Python, right? So this is something with where you have to write Python, just Python, right? Then you can write your current position or current education. So this is where you will put what is applicable to you. So if you're a working professional, put your current position. If you are currently studying, put your education, right? Again, the location. Whatever location you are putting up in your resume, right? And whatever location you are putting up in your LinkedIn profile should match. Because from there also, what you are doing, you are targeting job search, right? So it should filter out the location for where the job role is also there and for which location you are applying also. Again, the contact information, you just should just put your updated email address, no phone number there, right? Then then you can put your custom URL of the profile, right? This you have like the URL which you are going to put in your resume as well, right? Then the about section. Here also you can talk about a Python skill set, right? I'm just giving you an example of a Python developer, right? Whatever field you are currently working in or whatever field you are aiming the job for, you can just mention the skill set about that, right? Don't consider Python as the as something which is mandatory. I'm just giving you as an example, right? Then again in the featured section, so let's say I'll just a moment. I'll just okay, we'll talk about that later. In the featured section also you can include some of the good, let's say if you're somebody who posts a lot on LinkedIn, right? You can include the featured section and include those posts, or in the featured section you can include the resume, right? Whatever resume, the ATS compliant resume you have built, you can put your featured section. Work experience is applicable for the people who are working professional or who have a working experience, right? It's not applicable for the people who are currently studying or for a fresher. Then in licenses and certifications, you can put your certificates. You have done any certificate from Coursera, Udemy. Again, this should be similar to what you had mentioned in your resume, right? Similarly, work experience should be similar to what you had mentioned in your resume, right? Again, here now the skill set comes into picture. Now here in LinkedIn, it gives you a beneficial the benefit that you can include technical skills as well as your interpersonal skills. So by technical skills, for example, Python, SQL, Excel, PowerPoint, all of that, right? Interpersonal skills, your communication skill, right? The leadership skills, your management skills. All of this also you can include, right? And you can get endorsed as well for your skills. So I think if you are able to cover all of these sections in your LinkedIn profile, you should be able to optimize your profile. So yeah, that's all from my side. I mean, we can take up the questions. So, thank you.
Yeah, hi. If anyone else wants to ask any question, we can maybe take a couple more questions. I think we've already covered quite a few questions in the session as well. So if there's any additional questions, yeah, Vimala, please go ahead.
Can we get this recording of this? Because
Yeah.
I have joined in between.
Yeah, sure. So we will be uploading the recording of the session on our website itself. I've linked the website on the chat, so you can check that out. This is from Apna's exclusive site, and you can register for upcoming events as well. You can check all previous session recordings. So we'll upload this recording probably in the next couple of days. So once that is done, you can check it out from there.
I think we have one more question from
Yeah.
Swaru.
Yeah.
She doesn't understand what do I mean by custom URL profile. Let me quickly tell you or share with that. Okay, let me know if you're able to see my screen. So it's my LinkedIn profile, right? I mean, when I'm clicking here, right, on my public profile, right? So when I'm clicking on my contact info, I'm getting this as my LinkedIn profile, right? So this is something which I've customized it on my own for myself. Because if you see the default LinkedIn profile which the LinkedIn gives you, it has some abrupt numbers after your name, right? So what you can do is you can choose a username for yourself. So for example, I've put Nishna Gupta 09 for myself, right? And that's how you can make your profile link your profile URL as customized. I hope I answered your questions. Okay.
Okay.
Is there any question?
Anyone else? Anything else that you want to ask? I think this would be the final question for the day. Anything else that you want to know? Okay, I think that's about it. So we can move towards the conclusion bit. So before I start with the vote of thanks, Nishta, if there's any parting words that you want to share with the community here, anything that you want to let people know.
No, I think it's good to have everybody here, right? I hope I was able to deliver some insights, and you guys have learned one thing or the other, even if you were not from a data science domain, right? Or if you're not really applying there, right? Because the resume is something which everybody has to prepare when they're applying for the job, right? So I hope I was able to deliver that insights in some way or the other. And if you have any concern, you can always connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to help you further as well.
Yeah, Nishta, I think you should attach your LinkedIn profile here in chat so that people can maybe connect with you later.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So firstly, starting with a huge thank you to Nishta, obviously, for giving her time here, sharing her valuable insights. I hope people here were able to get some value add. They were able to learn some new things, especially people who are in their early stages of their career, who are freshers and are trying to navigate this entire job hunting scenario. Huge thank you to all the attendees for making this session a successful one. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for asking your queries, and I hope we were able to answer most of them. We understand not everything could have be covered because it's a limited session, so we will definitely have more sessions like these in the future. We are planning to do these sessions on a daily basis now, so you can check our website for all upcoming sessions that will be coming out. You can also check the Apna community where you will have notifications about these sessions. We will be posting in any relevant communities. Wherever you want to register, you can just either do it from the website or you can do it from the community by commenting on the post. I've also linked the feedback form here. We'd love to hear from you to understand what we could do differently, what topics you want us to cover. You can also check out, like I mentioned, the previous session recordings from the website itself. If you want to see the recording of this session, you'd probably have to wait a couple more days and then this will be live. So yeah, with that, I think we've come to the end of today's session. Thank you everyone for joining in. Have a great night. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Nisha. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Dipanjan. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.